Yo, we are at day 13. Day 13 of recordings every day. So welcome to day 13. And the topic that I've been going through over the last, since I last recorded my video was 12 hours ago or so, maybe a little bit longer. It's been a theme of commitment and what it requires of us to actually make a commitment to certain things. And commitment I have had troubles with in the past, staying committed to a certain task. And so these challenges are fantastic for that. Now, what I have struggled with in the past is staying committed to big goals. And it's coming down to, if I'm unable to do the smaller goals, oftentimes the bigger goals don't happen. And within this commitment is like, how can I create the trust within myself? Because every time we do something that we say that we're going to do, we create a deeper trust within ourselves. And we go, cool, I said I was going to do that thing and I did it. Great. And from that, we can go from a place of strength and integrity and really say that we are a man or a woman of our word. And so this is what I've been working on lately, saying that I'm going to do something, following through with it. This means making these tasks as simple as possible, which is basic recording for 30 minutes. It's still quite a thing to set aside for the day. And yet it's a big enough task that is visible in the public eye now, because now I've got you lovely people following me along. And you may not be consciously watching me and saying, hey, he's not turning up, or I wonder if he's going to turn up today. And maybe you are. That's also cool, because it's the reason why I've done it. It's within my own head. If I think, you know what, if I miss a day, the people who are following along, I'm going to let them down. And in turn, that is me letting myself down. That will create distrust. And all that will happen is I'll create some sort of excuse or reason as to why I couldn't do it, which will end up being bullshit. Mostly because there is always half an hour spare in my day. Whether it's getting up half an hour earlier, whether it's actually, the big one is organizing my time, organizing my day more efficiently, so that I do have sections of time where I go, oh, this is half hour of idle time. I could use this for X, put in recording. For example, I have guitar lessons to go teach after this, and I have 30 minutes available. It's about 40 minutes that I have. And utilizing that time to go, you know what? That's a good time to do a video recording. And so what I've been tapping in with is this level of commitment of what are we actually committing to? And how much does that thing that we're committing to really mean to us? Are we willing to go at it with like a ferocity, with a fire, and the thing of going, you know what? I'm going to say this thing and I'm going to do whatever it takes. Because in this book that I was reading a few weeks back, it's called 10x is easier than 2x. And the concept is that for us to 10x our business or our lives or any endeavor that we're doing is easier than doing 2x. And I'll explain. When we aim to 2x, that's the concept where we, let's say, earning $40 an hour, doing something, and we go, all right, well, I'm going to 2x. That means I'm going to work twice as hard, twice as many hours, and it works at this linear scale. It kind of goes, oh, you reach your your point of what you can actually achieve. And because this is determined by time, this is determined by how much energy you have in the day. If maybe you've got 24 hours in the day, I'd hope you have 24 hours in the day, otherwise you're living in a completely different paradigm. And part of that's sleeping, part of that's spent maybe spending time with family, maybe it's doing some stuff for yourself, eating. There's a few things that occur. And so within the times that you have spare, how are you using them? And are you using them towards your soul's gifts, towards the things that actually light you up? And this book goes into talk about the 2x concept, being we're doing every job because we see it as potential income, whether that's bookkeeping, whether that's doing social media posting, it could be all sorts of things, marketing, doing DMing people. And in the beginning, any business is going to probably require that attention from us completely. The idea of the 10x goal is to expand on that and say, for me to achieve this 10x goal, which is terrifying, it's the impossible goal. To achieve that, it requires everything that is not me and my genius to make happen. So if I were to, like, my goals right now are quite big. I've got a goal for my music to reach 10,000 people and to play in front of a crowd of 10,000 people. And as far as this voice work, it's to reach, I think I'll understate it right now actually, to reach 1 million people and within the next 5 years. And I feel like that's going to level up as well, to have an impact over that many people, have an impact of bringing people's voices out. This is requiring me to really take stock of what it is that is my genius, what is my essence, what is the thing that lights me up the most. Speaking, that is the thing that lights me up. And this is why I'm doing these videos, is so that I can develop that capacity, getting into public speaking from this week, and I'm going to be starting to do more of that, because all of that means reaching more people, learning how to interact with people more, learning how to really be engaging. And the more engaging that I am, the easier it is to reach more people. Then there's the other tasks, marketing. There's things like, emailing people, there's going to be things like DMing people. There's all sorts of things that are involved in this plan that I don't even know what they are yet. And the idea being that the sooner that we can pass that task off to someone else, basically employ someone else, the easier it is to achieve that goal. And that's why the book is called 10x is easier than 2x, because it's very difficult to be working on all of the things that aren't our soul's gifts, aren't us expressing ourselves in the way that is most authentic. And so that could be, to you, that could be website building. It could be whatever. It could be washing dogs. It could be being a checkout person. It's like, whatever that thing is, if you don't feel lit up in that thing, maybe you're not meant to do it. And I won't discredit any people who are doing tasks and jobs that they, let's say, they do because they need to feed their family, for example. And I won't discredit that. And I will admit also that I'm in a position of being a single male in his early 30s without children. However, I have seen a lot of circumstances of people changing their attitude and goals in their lives at all ages. So I won't discredit anyone. There's some people that have sat in the same job for years and years and years, and then they just one day just snap and they're like, no more of this. And they go off to live their soul's passion, that whatever lights their heart up. And so depends on where that breaking point is for people. And so looking at that big 10x goal, that one that's terrifying, it requires all of the ego to be let go of. This ego that keeps us at a certain ceiling. And we create it constantly. We recreate that ceiling. And actually a really cool example of this, I don't know if you've seen this video. It was an experiment done with fleas. And these fleas were put into a cup, to a glass cup. They were put in there with a lid over it. And what happened, as you're aware, fleas can jump like many meters in the air. I don't know what this figure is exactly. But what happened was they put the lid on. And as they put the lid on, they left it for 3 days. These fleas were hitting the ceiling constantly. And after that 3 days, they took the lid off. And those fleas never jumped higher than this height ever again. They had a self-imposed limit, a mental limit that they had hit. And this continues through the generations. So as they reproduced, their offspring wouldn't jump higher than that either. And so our own limitations are similar to that. We have a self-imposed ceiling. You'll have one, I have one. And it's about, can we see through it? And then can we lift that ceiling or break through it? When we can break through it, we can see that there's an infinite world of possibility up there. It's a reason that so many people, you see so many self-made millionaires and billionaires that have started from nothing. They started with this self-imposed limit and they decided, you know what, that ceiling doesn't serve me. I don't like it. So they go and break the ceiling. It's constantly possible. And part of my challenge that I've been going through lately is surrounding myself with people that allow me to lift that ceiling constantly. People with a higher ceiling than myself. So when I'm around them, I go, why is my ceiling there? I'm going to raise it. Cool. I'll raise it up to their standards. Whereas when I hang around people that have a low ceiling, perhaps even a lower ceiling than myself, maybe it's the same, I will end up keeping my ceiling the same. And as soon as I go to jump out, if I try to get higher than that, what certain people do is that they'll try to bring you back down into their level. That's the tall poppy syndrome. And that ties into a deeper need of belonging. It's one of the human needs is belonging. And if we don't belong to that certain group, well, what are we even doing here? And so we adhere to that certain group that was keeping us limited. It's about finding the people that allow us to grow, that have that high ceiling by, maybe they don't have a ceiling. Maybe it's limitless. Find those people in your life. Because these goals, you can work towards them by yourself. They do require a community. They require a team of people who believe in what you do. And this is part of the 10x goal. Back to this whole thing of the 10x goal, as I understand it, is to keep expanding more and more, and having the people that follow your values and ethics and all of those within the company. And so at the moment, I am acknowledging where I am, because that's also the first step is humility. is admitting things like, I have very, very little money in my bank account currently. And it's dwindling away very, very quickly. I'm in a deep trust and I'm putting in a lot of hours to make sure my businesses are working. I have a deep trust that it will be there. And what it's requiring of me and what it's asking of me is, how much work are you going to do? And how much aligned work are you going to do? Am I going to focus on the things that matter? The things that matter most, which is, for me, it's talking with people. It's creating community. It's spending time around the people that are good for my mental state. They're good for my soul, my heart. Feels loving, feels calm on my nervous system. And it just really lights me up. And so 10x goals, they're fun. And it's like, the more that I dip into this, the more negative thoughts come up as well. And these negative thoughts, they arise in a very convincing manner. And so I had a bunch come up this morning. I realized that in order to move forward with this sense of optimism and passion and really like allow this fire to burn, is for me to do away with those thoughts. Just say you're not welcome here half of the time. I can reprogram them and do all that sort of stuff. Ultimately, it's a communication with ourselves and go, you know what? That's not cool, bro. Like, imagine if you're having a really good time at a party and you're like having the best time and some dude walks in and he's just like a downer and wants to ruin the party. Starts picking fights with people, starts telling people that they're shit. And you're just like, bro, get the fuck out, man. Sometimes that's what's required. There's times for tactful reasoning and listening and all of these other forms of communication. And sometimes it's just like you're ruining the vibe here. And so you can do that with your thoughts. And it's not about invalidating yourself. It's just about like, we've got a certain vibe in here. And yeah, what do you want to do with that? And if that person with the negative vibes walks in and starts saying a bunch of things, and starts saying, you're ugly, you suck, you're really bad at what you do, you're a failure, you're a loser. And if someone started walking in to that room and started telling you that, do you start believing them? Do you go, maybe they've got a point? You know what? You're right. I am a loser. And now there's two ways to run this. If someone thinks that you are, what's the harm in agreeing with them? Two different approaches. Sometimes if someone says that, you can just be like, dude, fuck off. Also, if someone says it, this is what comedians do. I've noticed they do very well. Is they take the criticism on board and they will either give it back or they'll just take it on board. Very strong frame. As long as their egos are not attached to what came up. If someone says, hey, you're ugly, and you turn around and go, maybe I am, sure. It just kind of gives no energy to the thing that came in. It says, you know what, that's pretty invaluable to me right now. It's like, if you think that I'm ugly, okay, sure. I'm not going to change my behaviors. I'm not going to change how I look. I'm going to keep being me regardless. If someone says, hey, you're too loud, you go, okay. If you take offense to it and you're triggered by it, you may argue back. That suggests a real soft spot. Maybe you feel the need to justify yourself or even for being quiet. Someone says, hey, you're really quiet. This is ultimately a strategy in how we can approach when someone labels us and says we're a certain thing. Because when someone says something to us and labels us, they're telling you about their map of the world and how they see you in it. And so if I were to say to you, actually, I'll use this back the other way. If you were to say to me, like, you're really bad at these YouTube videos. There's so many people that are better than you. You should just give up. I'm not saying that you would say that. It's for example. I could take offense to that and try and defend it and be like, no, I'm putting in all the effort I can. I'm doing all that I can, and I think I'm really good. I think I'm quite good at what I'm doing for the amount of time I've been doing it. And this would be all defensive. I could reply with, yeah, I suck because I just started. Makes sense. It's like, that's all it needs to be. Or I could go into the story and how I was a year ago. The fact that I wouldn't even put myself in front of the camera a year ago. I was terrified of the camera a year ago. So again, I could throw that in there as well. If the person that I was talking with, if I felt like they deserved some sort of context, if I wanted to invest that energy into giving them context. Because once people see a comparison of where you were and where you are today, it's a whole different story. If you looked at yourself a year ago and then looked at where you are now, what have you achieved? Like, what are the things that you've actually achieved? Things that you a year ago would have said, that's really cool. Maybe you've just started exploring the idea of pursuing a new venture. Maybe a year ago you were telling yourself that, no, I'm not even going to do it. I don't even want to entertain it. Now maybe you're researching how to do that thing now. Maybe you've taken a step towards that. Accepting for yourself that you actually want to do the thing. That's a big step. When you consider that maybe before you were driving backwards and now you're slightly moving forwards, that's worthy of a celebration. And if you're watching this video, maybe there's more for you to discover. Well, there's always more to discover. That's the best part about learning, and best part about this life is that it's all about learning till the day that we die. And the more that we can accept that, the more enjoyable life will be. Purely because we get to be children every day. We get to go, I actually don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen when I post up this video. I don't know who's going to see it. I don't know who's going to respond. I don't know, which of you are going to be perhaps inspired by it. Maybe it's going to shift something in your mind. Maybe you resist against something that I've said. Maybe you hate me. Maybe you do. Whatever the thing happens is what happens. And it's part of the surrender. So this is what these videos have been so fantastic. It's something of a skill and a muscle that I'm practicing every single day. And so many like meta skills, so many big skills that are skills that I wouldn't have expected to be learning by simply doing this practice. When I first saw speaking to a camera, I thought, I'm going to speak to a camera. I'm actually speaking to the camera. And then I realized that it's deeper. That if I really want to actually be good at this thing, it requires me to speak through the camera. And not just speaking through the camera, but to speak through the camera with the intention that it actually lands in anyone who's receiving it, who's listening. And even deeper than that, that when I speak, that I'm speaking to your soul, that your deep, your heart and your soul are receiving it. That's another deeper intention. That's another practice. Because ultimately, I don't want to speak to your mind. I mean, there's plenty of people doing that. Yet to really bring out everyone's voices, it requires me to really deepen within that. And you'll feel it now, listening, that I'm speaking to this part of you. Because that's really getting to the heart of it, to the heart of things. It's getting to the core. And when I'm in this space, I don't know what I'm going to say. I can have a plan and it's probably going to dissipate. In this space, we create a sense of connection, like a deep, deep sense of connection. And I don't feel this from everyone. And for example, right now, I'm imagining myself speaking to your heart and your soul. That's what's going on in my field right now, in my awareness. And it feels like in this time warp. It's really cool. And this links in with the physical. This is how we can integrate things like the spiritual and the physical groundedness. And the thing that's my mission to achieve in this lifetime is to help to take big concepts and to be able to explain them in simple ways, in ways that just make sense, in ways of bypassing that mental barrier. Because it feels right. And when I look at all the things that I've been attracted to over the years, it's always around the voice. It's around expression. It's been around art. It's been guitar. It's been the physical voice, singing, coaching. The coaching work that I do, it's all around helping people to connect the dots and to understand deeper concepts within themselves and help them to connect that up with, let's say, take what's going on in their own head and what they feel and experience in their body and connecting that up with universal principles. Things that just land in the body, things that make sense. The idea is to return you to yourself more. And that's the purpose of these videos. It's like, the idea is not that you go away sounding more like me or that you speak more like me. I don't want that. It's not something that I would even call in. It's about you going, hey, I'm going to be more of myself. And if you turn out to be more of yourself after watching one of these videos, great. That's perfect. If you don't, it's okay as well. My intention is for you to potentially see the voice in a different manner, to be able to see it from a deeper perspective that is beyond the sounds that are coming out of your mouth. Because that's simply superficial. It's the concept of when people are, they say it's what's on the inside that counts. And if you have someone on the exterior, if they paint themselves in a certain way, they present themselves in a certain way, and you go, cool, that's fine, it becomes a mask. It becomes this, I need to be seen as this way. I need to be seen by this person in this particular way. That becomes your own weak point. Because if someone attacks that, if someone throws arrows at that, you're going to feel the need to defend that. Maybe attack them back. And so, the big one here is when you go to start speaking to the camera, there's going to be steps involved. When you go to start your new business, when you go to start expressing what's on your mind, what's in your heart, what's in your soul, it's going to take steps, and it's going to be jagged, and it's going to be rough, and it's going to be mechanical and awkward. I'm experiencing a lot of that right now. And as I put more of these dots together, it's like instead of me speaking to you as, all right, me, speak, camera, you. And then it becomes me, what's the message? Add a bunch more dots. Then there's the camera, then there's a bunch more dots to get to you. And it's about smoothing out those dots, adding more dots. It's what I see mastery as. And I'll explain that in deeper detail in the next video, because that just landed in me a couple of days ago and I really love the concept. So yeah, enjoy your day wherever you are in the world. Actually, I'd love to hear whereabouts in the world you are from. And if you're from the US, I'm from Australia. I live on the Gold Coast in Australia. And yeah, put a comment in and say where you're from. If you enjoyed the video, hit subscribe. If you want to follow along on this journey, like and do all the things. It would really mean a lot to me, and hopefully it would mean a lot to you as well. So peace out. See you guys tomorrow.